13 days of Halloween, and tomorrow we'll have a very, very special Halloween stream. Anyway, starting off, we're gonna go ahead and start the poll. And I will set a timer. Set timer for 1 minute. And that should do it. Okay, let's end the poll. Okay, so the results. Seems that we have gotten 2 short videos and 1 long game. luckily for me, I have this already picked out for us. How peculiar. There we go.
I worked as a regular pizza delivery driver during my later years of high school. Because of school, I'd always work the night shifts on Friday and Saturday. It was a pretty laid-back job, and for the most part, I'd just be driving or standing in the shop taking orders on the phone. A couple of my friends worked there too, so I always had someone to talk to.
Just get my drink real quick.
Anyways, it was Friday night, and I'd just gotten back from my last break. The place closes at 1 a.m., so we usually stop accepting orders around 12, as we still have to clean and everything before we leave. It was 11:30, but I figured I'd get a head start on the cleaning just to pass the time. Me and my other two friends were the only ones working that night, and one was finishing up a delivery, and the other just went on break after I got back. A couple minutes into cleaning, the phone started ringing, so I picked it up and asked how I could help them. There was an older man on the line, and he asked if we were still open for deliveries. I told him yeah, but we aren't taking any large orders. They said that was okay, and asked for a regular pizza, and gave me the address to deliver it to. About 15 minutes later, the pizza was ready, and I boxed it up and got in my car. The address was a little more than 10 minutes away, and I was probably halfway there when I pulled up behind another car, stopped at a stop sign on an empty road. I waited for a few seconds, looking around to see why he was stopped for so long. Then I honked my horn gently, assuming that he'd just fallen asleep or something. The car still didn't move, so I started to pull around him, but of course just as I did that, he pressed on the gas and jolted forward down the road. I was a little bit annoyed, but I figured it was just some guy being a dick for fun, so I continued down the road.
Never assume that on
A couple
dark
minutes
nights.
later, I passed that same car pulled over on the side of the road with its headlights off. I got a really uncomfortable feeling passing them, like something didn't feel right about it. I checked my mirrors for the rest of the way to the house to make sure he wasn't trying to follow me. Finally, I turned down the address's long driveway that went between a forest of trees. I pulled up to the front of the house and put the car in park, and I made sure I had everything and went up and knocked on the door. I waited a minute or two, and then an old lady answered and asked me what I was doing. I told her I was delivering a pizza here and recited the address to her that I was given. She said that nobody here ordered a pizza, and I could tell she felt bad for me. I just thanked her and went back to my car. This wasn't the most uncommon thing that happened, as some people would do it as a prank or just give the wrong address on accident. I figured I'd get out of the lady's driveway, then call my friend to have them call the number back and confirm the address. So I started making my way out of the driveway. But as I was making my way down, bright headlights blinded my view from ahead of me. It was so bright, I knew it had to be a car coming towards me, so I quickly pressed on the brakes. I waited for the car to turn off the lights or turn their car around, But after waiting for a little bit, I figured they weren't going to move. I wasn't sure exactly what to do, as I could barely see, and I knew the driveway was thin, so there was no way I could get around them. I decided to just wait and see what they do first, as I didn't really have any other options. A whole minute went by, of both of us just sitting there, before they turned their lights completely off. I waited for my eyes to readjust to the darkness, then looked ahead to see where their car was, but I couldn't see it. I put the car back in drive and slowly began making my way down, being cautious in case the other car started coming down the driveway again. A few seconds later, I see the car with all its headlights off parked in the middle of the path. I recognized it as the same one that was parked at the stop sign.
What?
I guess he had followed me without me noticing. I couldn't see through the windows in the dark, so as I sat there, I started to get pretty anxious and worried that there could be multiple people in there with bad intentions. Then the front driver door opened, and a man got out and began making his way towards me. Halfway to my car, he stopped and began waving at me as if he wanted me to pull up next to him. At this point, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I was really starting to freak out. I tried my best to pretend to be calm though, and rolled the car next to him. To my surprise, when I pulled up, he didn't say anything to me. He didn't even look at me, as he started walking around my car and eventually stopped right behind me by the trunk of my car. I looked in my rear view mirror, trying to figure out what he was doing and why he was just standing there. A few moments go by as I'm looking at this man, when I suddenly come to a realization and turn my head around to the front. The other 3 doors of the car swing open and 3 more men start sprinting towards my car. My adrenaline started pumping, and I stomped on the gas, flooring it and almost hitting one of the men as I turned my car off the driveway. I swerve around their car, nearly hitting several trees before making it back onto the path and eventually out onto the main road. There was nobody else on the road at this time, so I could clearly see in my mirror when the car pulled out onto the road and started making its way towards me. I figured they weren't going to stop unless I could get somewhere that wasn't so isolated, but after 30 seconds, the men turned down a side road. I made it back to work and immediately told my friends what happened. They both convinced me to call the police to at least report it, even though I wasn't able to give much helpful information. An officer came down, and I gave an official statement of the incident, and then they left just before we closed. I was surprised to get a call the next day, saying that 3 of the men had been arrested after attempting to rob another car later that night in the same exact driveway that I was in. The men were caught when the lady called the police after having 2 more people try and deliver food to her that she didn't order. I guess they were using that driveway to lure delivery drivers in and rob them on the way out, since it was a narrow, isolated driveway surrounded by forest. Unfortunately though, the 4th man was able to run through the trees and make it out, and I never received any updates on him in the following days, so I'm not sure if he was ever found. The old lady said though that she was unaware and had never seen them in the driveway before that night. It's pretty crazy that this happened to me, but I'm also proud of myself for how quickly I reacted and how I was able to make it out unharmed. It definitely made my job more stressful though, and soon after I was able to change my shifts to only working during the day on the weekends. I really hope that last guy got caught though, because who knows how many more people could be in those horrifying situations due to his escape. I worked as a food delivery driver during my first few years of college. Mainly, I would drive for DoorDash or Uber Eats. I didn't like making small talk with strangers and didn't want random people in my car, so I preferred delivering food over being a normal Uber driver. I did this for over a year with pretty much no issues, aside from the occasional customer mad that the restaurant messed up their order. Anyways, it was late Wednesday night, and I didn't have any classes in the morning, so I decided to make an extra few bucks and deliver for a little bit. I did 4 or 5 quick orders and ended up about 20 minutes from my dorm. It was about 1 a.m. now, and I figured I should probably end it there and head back. The way the delivery apps work is pretty much you just drive around and wait for a random order to pop up, and then it'll give you an estimate of how much you'll make and how far it is. Then you either accept or decline it. On my way back, I left the app running just in case there was a really quick delivery nearby. I got a few requests, but they were a bit too far and didn't seem worth it to me. But then another one popped up just as I was pulling into my dorm. It was about 12 miles away, but the payout was really big. I'd never seen anyone offer that much money before. I gave it some thought, as it was pretty far, and it was too much money to pass up. I accepted the offer and started the directions to the restaurant. A few minutes later, I arrived and pulled up their order so I could make sure I picked up the right stuff. As I walked through the doors, I noticed the customer had only ordered 2 items, and the total was only over $6. This was really unusual, as typically the high-paying orders are because of large deliveries of expensive food. This meant that they were just giving me a really big tip. I got the food and went back to the car. During the drive there, I was really just trying to understand why they would give such a big tip for such a small order. It was a little weird, but honestly, I just came to the conclusion that it was either just a mistake or they were trying to be kind. Although 12 miles wasn't too far from my campus, I had actually never been to this area. It was really nice, with mostly gated-off neighborhood communities and huge houses. Luckily, their house wasn't gated, and I was able to just pull into the neighborhood. I looked at the homes as I passed by, and realized that the tip money made a lot more sense now. The street was long though, and I was just a couple minutes from the house when the customer sent me a text through the app. It told me to make sure I delivered the food to the right address when I pulled up. I figured maybe the map showed his neighbor's house or something, so when I arrived, I sent him a text with a description of the house and asked if that was the right one. He replied no, and I waited for a little bit, expecting him to describe his house for me, but he never did. I sent him another text describing his neighbor's house, to which he replied no again. I was starting to get pretty annoyed with this guy, and tried calling him instead, but he refused to answer. He would ring a few times, and then he'd decline the call. I looked at the address again, and then copy and pasted it into Google to try and look it up there. Doing this, I actually noticed that the number for the address wasn't a regular number. It had a subset of numbers on it. I'd never seen this before, and wasn't even sure what it meant, so I searched the address on Google and looked at the results. When I zoomed in on the map, I saw that the address actually pointed to a spot right in between the 2 houses. Zooming in further, it looked like there was a really small garage, or maybe even a shed. It was barely visible. I looked up from my phone and moved my eyes to between the 2 houses, and sure enough, there was a small garage-like structure. It was just a few feet from the main house that my delivery app brought me to. I honestly wasn't sure what to expect, or why someone would even live there, but I already came this far, so I wasn't about to walk away now. So I got out and started heading over. As I walked up the driveway, I could clearly see what the place was. It was pretty much just a large storage garage, probably meant for keeping an old car or something. I didn't see any normal door though, so I put the bag down by the garage door. As I began taking my phone out to take a picture for the app, a man came around the right side of the garage. I looked over at him, and he just stood still, staring at me. The guy was really creeping me out, so I said, "It's right here for you, sir," as I pointed at the bag and slowly started walking away. and he replied, telling me that this wasn't where he wanted me to drop it off. I turned around and noticed that he was still standing in the same spot. Sorry, where did you want me to put it? I said, starting to get really uneasy about the situation. He pointed around the back of the garage and said that the door was over there. At that point, there was no way I was going to follow that guy to wherever he was trying to get me to go. I just kind of stood there for a moment, then said sorry and quickly walked back to my car. I looked over one more time before driving away, and the man was walking back behind the garage, but he left the bag of food. I got out of there and drove back to my dorm, shaking the whole way back. Something about that whole thing felt very off, and the fact that it was in a really nice neighborhood made me even more confused. The more I thought about it, though, I realized just how strange it was that he needed to specify for me not to deliver to the main house, and that he refused to take the food unless I followed him to behind the garage. I'd never had to call the police before in my whole life, and I ended up not calling them this time either, as I really wasn't sure if maybe he was just some weird harmless guy. Anyways, it freaked me out for a few days, but eventually I got over it and continued doing deliveries in my spare time. Nothing else happened, though a couple weeks later I had another big order pop up on my app, and the area of delivery was the same. I obviously declined it, but I couldn't help but think about whoever ended up accepting that order and what happened to them during their delivery. It was the beginning of fall, and I worked as a cashier at a small store near my apartment. My usual shift ended at 9 p.m., and then I'd usually go do food deliveries for a couple of hours before heading home. I actually enjoyed doing deliveries at night, as the roads weren't busy, and most other delivery drivers would work during the day and would take all the orders, so I'd actually get more orders to do at night. Anyways, I had just gotten out of work and set up my app to get ready to do some deliveries. The first one that came in was quick and only took about 15 minutes. Then I waited for a few minutes before the next order came in. It was a good payout, and the delivery address was 20 minutes away from where I was. I headed over to the fast food restaurant to pick up their food, then started making my way over to the house. The town I live in isn't too big and has a lot of empty plots of land. There's the main center of town, which is where my apartment is, and most of the restaurants. Then about 10 minutes out, there's a lot of farmland, and the houses are much more spread out. Almost all of the deliveries I get are within the town area, but every once in a while I'll get a delivery further out into the farm area. I assumed this was going to be a farmhouse since it was 20 minutes away. However, the app said that the address was located in a small neighborhood area just off of a small highway. I didn't like delivering to isolated farmhouses at night, as it just kind of creeped me out, so I was happy to be delivering to a neighborhood home. Once I got off the highway, I turned left and started making my way down the road toward the neighborhood. But almost immediately, I got a call from an unknown number. I declined it as I thought it was just a scam, but just a few seconds later, they called again. Figuring it was probably the customer, I accepted it. "Hello?" I asked. A few seconds went by with no response, so I just hung up. But then again, just a few moments later, the same number called me. I answered, and almost immediately a guy speaks and tells me I turned the wrong way. I asked him what he meant, as I have the map up and it says that I'm going the right way. But he said his address gets messed up on the delivery app, and that he always has to call and let the drivers know where to go. I said okay and asked him how to get there. He told me that when I got off the highway, I needed to take a right from that road, then take the third left. He mentioned it was a gravel path that led to his farmhouse at the end. I told him I'd be there in a few minutes and turned the car around. I've had multiple customers call me before to tell me that the address was a little off, or to give me directions on unnamed roads, as it was pretty common out here, so I honestly didn't think much of it. I passed the highway that I turned off of and continued until I found the third left and turned onto the gravel path. The path went into a small forest of trees and it was really dark. Again, I didn't like these areas at night, so I was definitely a little nervous driving down this isolated gravel road. Once I started getting nervous, I began thinking about how strange it was that the map had taken me so far in the opposite direction of the house that the man claims is his actual address. I tried to bury those thoughts, assuring myself that I was just overthinking it because I was nervous. A couple minutes passed though, and there was still no house in sight. At this point, I wasn't even sure if I had turned down the right path, but the trees were too close to the sides, so I didn't have much room to turn around anyways. I figured I'd continue down to the end, then call to ask if I had the right place, and turn around there if not. Another minute or two went by before I finally reached the end, as it merged into a small circle driveway next to a house. I drove up to the path that led to the front door and parked the car next to a for sale sign that was put up in the front of the house. Seeing that, I wasn't sure if I had the right house, but I looked over at the front door and it was open, and I could see someone further back wave at me. Figuring I was good, I grabbed the bag and started making my way over to the door. As I stepped onto the porch and began putting the bag down, I saw the man again down the hallway that led to the kitchen. He politely asked me if I could set the food down on the kitchen counter, then quickly walked away as if he was in a rush, and then I heard him turn the sink on in the kitchen. Hesitantly, I took a step into the house and looked around. It was decorated with old furniture and accessories, but it almost looked like it was completely unused. I quickly made my way down the hall and into the kitchen, but as soon as I got there, I noticed that the sink was still running, but the man was nowhere in sight. This made chills run down my body, and I quickly set the bag down on the counter and got out of there as quick as I could. I could hear the man yell something from the front door as I got back in my car.
And that's why you never go
Couldn't understand
inside
what he said.
a customer's house when you are doing food delivery.
I didn't stop driving until I got to the parking lot of my apartment. Then I pulled my phone out and saw multiple missed calls from that same number. I blocked the number, then opened the delivery app so I could end my deliveries for the night. But that's when I noticed that I had messages from the customer through the app telling me that I had turned the wrong way and that I was at the wrong house. I went into shock for a moment, realizing that the man that had called me wasn't my actual customer, and the house I was in was just some stranger's house. I called the police immediately and reported everything to them. An officer came to my apartment to go over more details soon after. I had no idea how this man could have known that I was doing a delivery and had been able to see my location. The officer said that my phone had likely been hacked and that the man was probably monitoring everything that I was doing. Hearing this made me really uncomfortable. As if all of that wasn't bad enough, the next day I was informed that the house I was at was actually vacant, as it was for sale by the owners who had moved out months ago. The man had apparently gotten in through an unlocked window in one of the rooms. As of right now, they still haven't found anything significant that could lead to finding the man, which makes me feel really unsafe. I don't know for sure what the man was trying to do, but I think it's a pretty good assumption that he was probably planning on kidnapping me, or maybe even worse. I try not to think about it too much, but I can't help but go over all of the horrible things that could have happened on that night.
We all have our favorite holidays. For some, it's Christmas. For others, it's Thanksgiving. For me, it was Halloween, and was being the key word. Here's why it's not anymore. Back in 2019, I was finally financially ready to buy my own home. I was 27 years old at the time, and was able to purchase a single-family property in the suburbs of Pennsylvania. At the time, I was single and living alone, but that didn't bother me. I thoroughly enjoyed my independence. It was Halloween night, my first Halloween in the new house. I had decorated it from top to bottom with lights, spider webs, gravestones, fog machines, and anything you could think of. The kids of the neighborhood loved my decorations. They came in flocks to trick or treat. Even their parents would come up to the porch and say what a great job I did. Anyway, I was sitting on my front porch, drinking hot apple cider. It was almost 10 p.m., and the trick-or-treaters had died down significantly. I was about to call it a night when I saw someone dressed in a scarecrow costume standing at the edge of my driveway. They had on makeup, hay, and even overalls, and looked like a very good scarecrow. They were standing there, staring directly at me and my house. I called out if he wanted any candy, because I was about to head in. The scarecrow did not respond. I waved my hands at them again, and asked if they wanted any candy before I locked up for the night. Still no answer from the scarecrow. At this point, I thought maybe this was some drunk teenager or someone strung out on drugs, and finally told them to leave and get off my property. The scarecrow tilted their head and walked away into the night. Later that same night, I locked up my house, ate the leftover Halloween candy, and put on a horror movie. It was past midnight when, from my living room where I was watching my movie, I could see my backyard floodlights going on and off. At first, this was not a concern. There's always small animals running around back there. But when the floodlights did not stop going off about 10 minutes after I noticed, that's when the situation changed. I got up, went to my kitchen back door, opened it, and looked out into my backyard. It was empty. No animals or anything in sight. I was about to chalk it up to faulty wiring when, in the back of my yard, my shed door was wide open. Now, I'm a man who is meticulous when it comes to locking up for the night. I would have never left my shed door open like this. In fact, I wasn't in it all week. I walked slowly towards the shed, wondering how on earth it had gotten opened, when the floodlights behind me shut off, and I was immersed in total darkness.
Okay,
Not
Chad,
worried,
if you're going to
because I was totally
investigate something
logical
that
about the
seems out of
situation.
place, always grab a weapon
It was
beforehand.
the wind that opened the door. I pulled out my lighter and stepped inside. I flicked it on. Everything seemed normal. The lawnmower was there. My toolkit on the shelf was there. Nothing was out of the ordinary. I did the mental checklist and was about to leave when I heard laughter. I held my lighter higher, praying that what I heard was just the wind blowing in the trees and not human laughter, because that had to be impossible since I was alone. But the impossible became possible. In the back corner, by the rakes, crouched down and still laughing, was that scarecrow. When the light hit his face, I could see his face paint was smeared, and he had this bizarre smile. I barely had time to process this when he stretched out his arms and charged at me. I dropped my lighter. The scarecrow man slammed into me, and we started fighting right there on my shed floor. We were painfully rolling into other things in the shed because of how dark it was. I was trying to defend myself the best I could, while he kept laughing in this maniac way. I was fearing for my life when, suddenly, the scarecrow stopped, got up from the fight, ran out of the shed, and into the night, still laughing. A little bruised, but okay. I did not end up calling the police. I honestly didn't feel like going through the headache of getting them involved. Instead, I double made sure my whole house was secured and locked. I stayed up on my couch, looking out the window, until I was finally too exhausted and fell asleep. My dream was hellishly real. It was of that scarecrow standing directly over me while I slept, laughing and staring into my soul. The next morning, when I woke up, I was glad to see the sunlight. What I was not glad to see was a bunch of hay by my couch. I tried not to freak out and tried to recall the scuffle and if any of the scarecrow's hay had gotten onto my clothes. I truly couldn't remember, but I pray that's the reason there was hay on my floor, and not because my dream wasn't really a dream. Nothing like this has happened since. My girlfriend has now moved in with me, and we have never had such an encounter like we did my first Halloween night with the scarecrow. As much as I want Halloween to be my favorite holiday, I just can't anymore. It's too much trauma. But maybe one day that will change. But for now, I'm sticking with Christmas.
Our official merch store is finally here. If you want to support more of our
Okay, chat, let's go on to the next video.
channel.
Only a handful of people from my personal life know this story, but I figured since Reddit can be pretty anonymous, I'd just make a throwaway and get it off my chest one more time. You can call nonsense on it all if you like. I really don't care what anyone has to say about it at this stage, because the truth is, I still might actually go to prison for this. You see, more than 20 years ago, I used to work the overnight shift at a 24-hour gas station in a major U.S. city, one that'll remain nameless and that I do not live in anymore. As you can imagine, I've got my fair share of crazy stories from my time working there, but only one that still keeps me up at night, and that's the story of Big Sal. One of the things that kind of surprised me about working nights at the gas station was the number of regulars I'd get to know. You figure an overnight gas station would mostly get a mixed assortment of transient strangers, but for some people, mostly other night shift workers, stopping at the gas station became a regular part of their routine, especially since it was the only thing in the area that was open 24 hours. There were a couple of nurses and a few cab drivers that I used to see on the regular, but without a doubt, my favorite was Big Sal. Sal didn't get his name because he was tall. He got his name because he was wide, and most nights he'd waddle into the station, pay for his gas, then we'd shoot the breeze for a while. It was kind of annoying at first, being forced to conversate when I felt too tired to even string a sentence together. But after a while, it was kind of nice to see a familiar face to break the boredom and kill some time. But then the thing that really made me like Big Sal was when he brought me a little takeout tray of some food that his wife had made. Occasionally, he'd stay so long that we'd have to pause so I could serve a customer. Sometimes he'd just stand there and mind his business. Other times he'd make a face at me like, "Get a load of this guy," and I'd have to bite my tongue to keep from laughing out loud. But then this one time, a guy walks in to pay for his gas, so Sal takes a step back from the register and politely apologizes to him. Guy says, "No problem." I ring him up, then just as he's going through his wallet, Sal says, "Hey, don't I know you?" The guy looks up, narrows his eyes a little, then innocently says, I don't think so. Then says something about being up on business for Missouri. Sal just kind of nods for a second, then says, "What's your name?" The guy stops again, gives his nervous little chuckle, then gives some plain-sounding name that I can't for the life of me remember. But I do remember what Sal said next, because that got repeated over and over for the next minute or so. Sal says, "Nah, that's not you. You're..." And then he says a very, very Italian-sounding name and accuses the guy of having worked with a friend of his in another large city nearby. Again, the guy denies it, acting like Sal is out of his freaking mind. Even I thought he was telling the truth, but good God, Sal just went off like a deaf Jack Russell, and there was just no getting him back in the car. Then right when I think things are about to get heated, with the guy being like, "Get out of my face, I told you who I am," Now leave me alone, please, sir. Sal backs down. He says something like, "You know what? I'm sorry. You're right. You just look like an old friend of mine, and I got offended thinking you were trying to duck me. I apologize." "Hey, no problem," the guy replied, obviously still bristling a little. "Just, Jesus, listen to what people are telling you, for Christ's sake. I don't want to fight anybody, you know?" I know. I apologize sincerely. I'm ashamed of myself. I really am," Sal says back. I used to get stuff like that a surprising amount. Not always from Sal, just weird little interactions with members of the public where it could either be hilarious or incredibly annoying. So I really didn't think too much of it. I just waited patiently, took the guy's money, and then wished him a nice night. Sal chimes in too, offering another apology, then we watch the guy walk out of the station. The second the door closes, the guy starts walking towards his car. Sal practically jumps into action. Not exactly Sonic the Hedgehog given his size, but he definitely waddled harder and faster than I'd ever seen before. Right as the guy is getting back into his car, I see Sal reaching into his waistband for something. Then bang, 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 bang. I see muzzle flashes. Then the guy's windshield is shattered. And then there's silence again. I just stand there for a second, frozen to the spot, unable to properly compute what I've just witnessed. Big Sal, nice guy Sal who brings me leftovers and shoots the breeze with me when we're not roasting customers. He just killed a man, and he did it right in front of me. Sal didn't even look back. He just slid the gun back into his waistband, then started walking over to the guy's car. When he got there, he opened up the driver's side door, shoved over the guy's body, then got in and drove the car out of the lot. The whole thing was said and done in a matter of seconds. I'm thinking, I need to call the cops as soon as I come out of shock. And this is back before I had a cell phone, so I used the gas station's phone. A little thought pops into my head. Big Sal, Italian name, works at night, carries a gun, just shot a guy as coolly as I'd take out the trash. He's in the mafia. I'm standing there, phone in hand, wanting to call 911, but I couldn't bring myself to. All I could think of was, what if I call and he's gonna know? I couldn't have been a mafia witness, going into witness protection and all that nonsense in my early 20s. Are you kidding me? Look, I know I should have called the cops, but I was terrified. I hesitated. What else do you want me to say? The mob was a serious thing where I grew up, not like it is now. And besides, Big Sal had left his car at the pumps. Like, surely he'd be coming back for it, and soon, considering what he'd just done. And think about it. He shows back up, sees the cop car outside. He's gonna disappear and have me killed to keep me quiet. He knew so much about me too. Like, we'd been talking all summer basically. He'd been able to have dudes find me in like days if he wanted to. So, I'm standing there at the register, trying not to have a full-blown panic attack when Sal finally shows back up in a taxi. He has a change of clothes. His hair's still damp, and when he walked into the station, I almost choked on the amount of cologne he was wearing. Then he just walks up to the register, addresses me by name, and says, "This is a robbery." I just look at him, like, what? And he says it again. I said, "This is a robbery." Then he pulls out a gun, points it at me. Immediately, I'm like, "Sal, you don't gotta kill me, man. I swear I won't say anything." Hey, calm down. I'm not gonna clip you," he replies. "Just listen to me, okay? Open the register and give me the money." I did as I was told, but I can't even really describe how confused I was. First he shoots somebody, and then he comes back to rob me. Why? Now, because I just robbed you, I'm gonna need the tapes too. You catch my drift? He says. And suddenly I get it. He's trying to cover his tracks. I was visibly relieved, trembling as I led him into the back. See, kid, now you're getting it. And this is your money, too. I'm gonna come back and give you your cut when this all blows over. I didn't say anything in response. I mean, what do you say to something like that? As I said, I'd calmed down a little bit, but I'm still screwed up for having just witnessed a shooting. Sal can obviously detect this, and I don't know how much of what he told me next is true, but this is what he said. He tells me everything's going to be fine and I shouldn't worry about covering for the guy he shot. According to Sal, this dude was a rat, turned state's evidence against his old capo back in the early 80s. Obviously, that meant the mob wanted him dead. But there was a twist, too. They wanted him dead way before he went all Benedict Arnold on them, because one of his associates ended up catching him at home with a 13-year-old girl. This made its way up to the boss of the family and boom, guy gets greenlit. He finds out, so to save his life, he turns into the star witness in a RICO case. After that, poof, he disappears. What was he doing back home? I don't know. Presumably he dyed his hair, maybe lost a little of his accent after living away for so long, but that didn't fool Sal, and it cost the guy his life. I didn't stick around to take my cut. I called up my boss to quit the very next day. I also kept my mouth shut when the cops came around to talk about the robbery. Well, I talked, but I gave Sal's version of the events. Guy in a mask came in, took the money, took the tapes, left. That seemed good enough for them, so after a while, the whole thing just went away. And I'm hoping it stays away too, because as much as I feel a weird, longing sense of guilt over the whole thing, I just want what's dead to stay buried. I used to work 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. at an Arco station as a cashier back in the day. It was on some old country road off of a main highway, so we didn't get too many customers. But locals knew it was cheap and open late, so the business just about broke even every month. Since we were in Oregon, where people don't pump their own gas for whatever reason, I used to work with a fuel attendant most shifts. But on one shift in particular, he calls in sick and the bosses couldn't get me a replacement. So, I'm screwed, doomed to work 2 jobs for 1 paycheck for 8 solid hours. Then around like 1:30 a.m., I start hearing these creepy scratching sounds coming from the storage room out back. We used to get raccoons out there all the time, scratching away at a piece of exposed drywall in the hopes of getting through to all the snacks inside. The past few times that had happened, I just stuck my head to shout up, "Hey, Trash Panda, enough!" And the sounds would normally stop. As usual, they did, so I just went back to browsing Reddit and trying not to fall asleep. But then, the sounds start back up again, which had never, ever happened before, so I'm like, brave raccoons tonight, huh? So I do it again. I call out and the sounds stop. But again, they start up again within minutes of me sitting down, but this time, when I get up to call out, I hear some loud bashing sound coming from the storage room, and I realize that it's no raccoon making those noises. In retrospect, I probably should have just slammed the door, locked it, and called the cops, but I'm dumb, so I looked. And what do I see lunging at me from a dark corner? But the scrabbiest, most demonic-looking meth head I'd ever seen in my life. I just turn tail and run out of the store as he unleashes this hell scream behind me, and not once do I look back as I bolted towards the front entrance to the station. I don't think I'll ever find the words to describe how relieved I was to see red and blue flashing lights outside. A cop was literally pulling up after getting a call from a passing driver that someone was acting all weird around back. Must have been after watching Marky Meth Freak scratching away at the drywall. Just crazy thinking that he and the raccoons had the same style of thinking. But anyway, thankfully the dude ran off when he saw the cop entering the station, and I'm not sure what happened to the guy after that. Management had the hole patched up, and after that we didn't get any more scratching. or any more meth heads breaking in the middle of the night. The scariest thing I ever saw while working at a gas station has to be the time I had this huge Goldberg-looking dude rock up to the register, slam down a 50, and shout gas. He immediately walks back out towards pump number 4, and I'm just like, whatever, idiot. Ring him up for $50 worth and activate the pump for him. That's when I noticed how his car isn't parked at the pump properly, so I decided to watch thinking, this is going to be funny. I thought I was going to watch him struggle with the hose, get all angry about it, a healthy dose of karma to lighten up my shift. But that dude hadn't parked like an idiot by accident. He knew exactly what he was doing. He grabs the gas nozzle, opens up the passenger door of his car, then starts spraying gas all over the inside of his car. Obviously, I'm immediately like, no, this is not good, and I smash the emergency shutoff switch before calling the cops. Then, while I'm on the phone to the dispatcher, terrified this dude is about to set his car on fire in a freaking gas station, I see something even worse. The driver's side door opens up and some girl comes tumbling out of the car, soaked in gas, and goes running towards the highway, screaming in terror. By that time, everyone around was watching this whole thing unfold as the dude chases the gas-soaked girl out of sight. This is back when I had to use the gas station's landline, as we weren't allowed to keep cell phones with us while on shift, so it's not like I could run out to see what's going on. I had to wait until the call was over to run out and see when everyone could see. Thankfully, the girl wasn't on fire, since the guy didn't have a lighter handy, or if he did, he certainly saw sense with regards to using it. But my God, he was kicking the crap out of her, and when the cops showed up, they had to tase the guy to get him to stop. I legitimately thought that I was about to watch a human fireball for a hot minute. This probably won't be the scariest story y'all have ever heard, and at the time it just made me mad. But afterward, when I actually had time to think about it, I realized I basically dodged a bullet, and that if I hadn't been a little quicker, I might not be around today to write this. A few years back, I'm driving home from work one day when I see my gas light on. Naturally, I pull into the next available gas station, fill my tank up, then head into the gas station itself to pay. Then, as I'm walking through the door, I accidentally bump into a guy who was walking out while staring at his phone. Even though he was most definitely at fault, I offered him an apology. But that didn't seem to be good enough for him. He gives me this look, and when I return his gaze, he says something like, "You looking like you know me, homie?" I didn't even really know what he meant by that, and I found his overall reaction to be nothing short of infuriating. But my mother brought me up to be the bigger man, so I simply told him to be more careful next time, and carried on to the store to pay for my gas. He made some comment like, "The F do you say to me, old man?" But I disregarded it. He didn't follow me into the store, so I didn't think that there'd be any more trouble. I walked to the back of the store, intent on grabbing a pack of those Korean moon pie things, then remember what my wife said about getting started with my diet. I knew she was right, and it was either start now or never get started at all, so I decided to forego my imported moon pies and just pay for my gas. Then as I'm walking back towards the pumps, it sort of looks like my front hood is up for some reason. Then as I get closer, I realize it really is my car that has its front hood up. Only I can't see who's behind it, presumably checking my engine. Under normal circumstances, that wouldn't alarm me too much, but considering the interaction I just had with that very rude young man, I get a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. I started calling out before the very same young man darts out from behind my hood and starts walking away as quickly as he can. I don't move too fast these days, but by God did I hustle over to my car to see what kind of vandalism he'd been up to, only to see that he'd cut my brake fluid. My brake fluid, of all things. He could have damaged 50 different things, and he went right for my brake fluid. And if I hadn't just paid for my gas and gotten out of there, I might not have caught him doing it. Obviously, I called the cops, then a mechanic as quickly as I could. And honestly, I could barely believe what I told them, how a young man had taken such offense at the smallest slight that he tried to, well, murder me. Because let's face it, that's what he tried to do. I'd have gotten back on the highway, picked up speed, then when it came to brake, that'd be the end of me. It took a tow truck to get my car out of there, and the repairs cost me more than I expected. But on the bright side, the cops caught the kid who did it, and he ended up picking up a charge for property damage of all things. I honestly wish he got more.
Our official merch store is finally here. If you want to
Okay, chat, time to do the long game that we were going to play. Let me just get it set up real quick. Sorry about that, chat. Apparently, I am the only one that my dog will listen to at all no matter... Let me just get this setting up onto... Today we will be playing Don't Toy With Me, a horror visual novel. Light spills through the tiny windows of the dollhouse, catching the flecks of dust in the air. Though it's early in the morning, the inhabitants have been awake for a while now. It's to be expected that toys wouldn't have quite the same grasp on time as you do. Whisker, you've hardly touched your tea. Her least of all. She's an antique. You could at least pretend to drink it, since I went to the trouble of making it. Stuffed Rabbit sits at the table, a frown on its embroidered face. Turns its head away from the cup in defiance. Geez, you're so moody lately. I know it's not terribly fun to be stuck alone here with me, but you're not doing yourself any favors by being difficult. I think we should be making the best of it. I really wish you'd let me cut your mouse so you could try and hold a conversation. The rabbit scurries off across the wooden floor and down the stairs. Dahlia sighs. It's only a suggestion. I'm not going to force you. I suppose that's another cup down the drain, then. Dahlia gathers up the teacup and saucer from the floor to take down to the kitchen. Though Whisker has been in the house for a while with her now, he's always been terribly skittish. The kitchen holds the rest of the tea set, always ready for a hypothetical tea party that thus far hasn't come to fruition. The rabbit wasn't about to sit at the table with her. Thinking back on it, she has trouble recalling who it was that used to sit there with her. You're listening right now, aren't you? I'm fairly certain I can hear you out there. The sound of large fingers gently tapping nails on the outside of the house answer her question. She smiles softly. There you are. Maybe you could join me. I'm not sure how you'd fit in here with me, but I'd welcome you anyway. Perhaps you could let me outside. I'd sit on the roof to be closer to you. You know better than to give her away on that. Cracks on her face tell the story of a previous excursion outside of the house. She's met with silence. Her smile holds patiently. For all 10 seconds. Fine, then I won't be entertaining you either. Yours should be reasonable finds you. I'll be reading in my room. She storms out of the kitchen and up the stairs. You decide to give her some time to cool off while you leave to run an errand. You have a feeling she'll lighten up when you retrieve your new purchase. The dollhouse is a little bit cleaner than it was this morning. Dahlia has spent some time dusting and picking up. She prefers her home spotless, or at least she used to. Now it seems she settles for clean enough, and she never bothers with the attic anymore. She idly straightens the decorations atop her wardrobe in her room. A heavy thump quickly undoes this. What? She turns, looking around in surprise. Hesitantly, she peers out her bedroom door and down the stairs. Whisker is already in the foyer, investigating. What is it? She descends the stairs, delicate joints clicking with each step. She finds the large box, taking up the entryway. Oh my, a present. Her eyes light up with interest, running her fingers over the wooden exterior. There's a quirk to her brow when she realizes it's cheap compressed wood. Something new, then. Whisker presses his ears to the side of the box. He hops back away when he hears a cough from inside, hiding behind Dahlia. What is it? She searches around the lid, unable to quite pull it up. She finally finds the hook on the other side and undoes it from the small peg that holds the lid shut. She practically throws the lid open, a bright smile on her face. Oh, Whisker, look. A new friend. Is he dead? I'm not dead. Oh, good. The clown in the box hangs limply when Dahlia drags him out of the box by his shirt. She's surprised to find that he's mostly fabric with little structure underneath. His sleeves are half empty, tied at the seams with a ruffle. All in all, his head is solid, but his body is plush. Hello, new friend. My name is Dahlia, and this is my friend Whisker. The rabbit's ears lie back, looking none too friendly. He keeps his distance. I'm sorry for all the excitement. It's just been so long since we've had a new toy. Well, not had, obviously. We don't have you. What are you actually? Oh, where on earth are my manners? What do you go by, friend? No, I don't go by friend. And I'm a puppet. My name is Huxley. Huxley, how nice. Puppet? Why, that does explain it. Oh, let me take you to a chair. Shouldn't be holding you in the whole time. Like a little bear. With Huxley comfortably situated in his chair at the table, Dahlia sits opposite him. She's all smiles, even though the clown looks so sullen. Here, have some tea. Oh, can you hold the cup? Have a silly straw. Thanks. Despite the thanks, the clown doesn't make any move to drink the tea. Are you alright, Huxley? I don't expect you to be quite as excited as me, but you look so upset. I'm not upset, but what's there to be excited for? You've taken me out of a box, and here I am to sit in another box. The only difference is that I'm not the only one in this box. But that makes all the difference, doesn't it? I do enjoy watching Whisker, but he's not one for conversation. And now this won't be such a lonely place. What do you want to do? I'll show you that there's fun to have here. I don't want anything, thanks. Oh, surely that isn't true. Everyone wants something. Do you want some quiet? We could lie on the floor and watch the star projector. That's what you like to do. No, we're trying to find something you want to do. Do you want to tell jokes? You are a clown. If you'd like. Did you hear about the clown car that crashed down in the middle of nowhere? There were 30 casualties. I don't think I get that one. I'll try again. What do you get when you boil a clown? A laughing stock. Oh, that's funny. Clown soup. I bet it would have polka dots, too. Oh, let me try. A clown named Takalashi goes to see a therapist. Oh, darn it, I messed it up. You're a funny lady, Dahlia. Oh, you smiled. Oh, don't stop just because I pointed it out. I'll start getting the idea you're determined to sulk. Sorry. I just haven't told any jokes in a while. No audience unless I got brought out just for that. So I stopped. What's the point? The point of telling jokes. The point of coming up with jokes if I only get to tell them when someone gives me the time of day. I don't like being a puppet. The only choice I get is to not participate. So I started doing that, opting out. Oh, so you just don't do anything? Nothing I don't want to do. Which I don't want to do much lately, so... yeah, kind of. He looks uncomfortable at the direction of the conversation. It's clear he hasn't had to explain himself at length before, especially when so withdrawn for everything. Dolly, on the other hand, is clearly mulling this idea over in her head. Do you think you'd want to do more if you could get around better on your own? Since then, you can go where you like and not have to wait for someone to bring you there. That would make things easier for me. No offense, but I don't think I want you stitching anything onto me if that's what you're thinking. Huh? Why? Are you just assuming I'd be bad at it? Choose to keep my answer to myself. That wasn't what I was thinking about anyway. Wait here for just a moment. I'll try not to go anywhere. Dahlia leaves the kitchen, hurrying off back to the foyer. She stands near the box Huxley arrived in and looks up, her gaze aimlessly, as though she isn't quite sure where to look. Hello up there. Imagine you're still watching, yes? Thank you for sending me a new friend. I know I've asked for one a lot, but I'm afraid I need to ask for something else. I'm sorry for asking so soon after receiving this gift. It isn't for me, so I hope that might make up for it. So do you think perhaps you could give me something to help Huxley move? Perhaps wheels, or wooden skeleton? I suppose there couldn't be any harm in it. If the puppet is really so broken that it can't even keep her company, it doesn't do much good, does it? It will have to be modifications so simple that even toys can figure it out, though. You have an idea? Surely with only a single item to work with, she'll understand what needs to be done. Place her gift in the box Huxley had arrived in. Dahlia looks on in surprise as she sees a large spring in the box. Oh! Yes, this is perfect. Thank you so much. She eagerly plucks her prize from the container, needing both hands to carry it. It's as long as her legs at the very least. Seeing as it's a bit unwieldy, perhaps it is the best idea to bring it near the tea set. She ends up leaving behind and fetching Huxley instead. It takes the pair a few minutes to figure out the logistics of the attachment, but in the end it is sewn securely to the opening of Huxley's body. It takes a moment to get used to balancing on the spring. This certainly is different. I think I'm getting the hang of it, though. Stairs will take some practice. That's what the railing is for, at least until you get better at jumping. Perhaps soon you'll be able to leap from the landing to the upper doorway in one go. She laughs at the idea, but he seems to be very seriously considering it. Perhaps so. Everything else is upstairs, right? What about the back room? More stairs, unfortunately. That's the doorway to the attic. What's up there? More stairs. The ceiling, silly. some old odds and ends. Some things just don't really have a place in the house, but they still have to go somewhere. Perhaps we could even eventually convert it into a bedroom for you. Your cruelty knows no bounds, Lady Dahlia. Making a man able to jump and putting him in a room with a low ceiling. I didn't mean... I know, I'm only teasing you. For someone who kept wanting me to lighten you up, you sure aren't good at recognizing a joke. Oh, don't tease me. I'm happy to see you're in much better spirits. I am. I've never had something like this. Though, is this really okay? What do you mean? Nothing. I didn't like being a puppet, so I don't know why I should feel odd about becoming something else. Like a jack-in-the-box. I would never. I mean to say, I'm not getting back in that box. Of course not. But you have to sleep somewhere. The box can stay here in the foyer. We can make it into a table or use it as a chest. Just don't want to have to carry it up in the attic. Whatever you want to do with it, it's not mine. But yeah, I guess this makes me a jack out of the box, which I'd also never do. Dahlia tilts her head in confusion once more. Huxley spares her any explanation of the joke. I'm actually feeling a little fidgety now. I think I want to give the stairs a try. Will you show me the rest of the house and I'll make it up? Of course, and if you can't, I'll carry you up. I'll make it up even if I have to drag myself up. Just, maybe go stand out of the way just in case. With some time and effort and a couple of paintings knocked off the wall, Huxley manages to make his way up the stairs. Dahlia reveals perhaps a few new cracks added to her face from the worry with which she watched when he twice spilled backwards down the stairs. Luckily, the clown was not so delicate as she was. He bounced like rubber. Perhaps that's what he was made of. The thought remains in her mind that she'll have to remind her new friend that she's much more fragile than he is. But for now, she hurries up after him to congratulate him and show him around the upper floor. The linen closet isn't exactly a room, but it's important to show regard this. The bathroom is of slightly more importance, of course, though perhaps less important than it would have been in a real house. Huxley notices the lingering smell of paint and powders in the bathroom. It must be where Dahlia... I cannot read that. Lastly, Dahlia brings him to her bedroom. I don't think I've ever had anyone in here before, well, aside from Whisker. You don't think so? Where is that little guy, anyway? I kind of expected him to join us for the tour. Oh, don't mind him. He's so jumpy these days. Couldn't even tell you why. Perhaps he's less confident with other plush animals around. There used to be more. I can't seem to recall. I know I knew a teddy bear once. Perhaps he was a friend of Whisker's. She frowns, brows furrowed in concentration. Huxley watches on with concern. Is remembering things a regular problem for you, Dahlia? In a sense, I suppose it is. Very little changes in the house, so the days tend to blend together. If I have trouble remembering something, it'd be hard pressed to know whether it's due to forgetfulness or because it happened longer ago than I realize. I've recently started writing in my journal again, though, so that should help the more recent days. I wasn't sure where it was for a while, so I have to really make good use of it now that I have it again. Yeah, sounds like a plan. And if I get curious, I could always read up on what I missed before I got here. Absolutely not. I keep it locked, so you couldn't even... if you wanted to. Just another joke, Dahlia. I wouldn't read your diary. You better not. Now, what was I going to show you in here? Oh, I wanted to show you here in my wardrobe. I keep my dresses here, but it's full of mini games as well. You can feel free to help yourself to any of them if you find yourself looking for something to play. I have my bookcase in here as well. I have all the classics. Pride and Prejudice, The Little Princess, Hans Christian Andersen's Fairy Tales collection. Quite the collection, Dahlia. Are you teasing me again? No, they're just very you. Except that one. The complete short stories of Edgar Allan Poe. A little bit of a Gothic at heart, are you? I did say I love the classics. What about you, Mr. Know-It-All? You're making yourself sound rather well read. I've just heard my share of bedtime stories in my day. And the others I've heard... a little of in homework form. Ugh. Just say it hasn't made me the most bookish kind of guy. Except maybe joke books. Well, in your words, that's very you. There's no shame in it, but I warn you that you will eventually want to do some reading. Beggars can't be choosers for entertainment in this house. I'd be happy to read to you. I can see it now. I'll let you know if I have trouble falling asleep here, then maybe I could use it. It's refreshing to see Dahlia looking so lively again after so much time spent by herself in the dollhouse. She's had her problems in the past getting along with other toys, but the clown seems to be a good choice. Entertaining as a jester should be, but not so energetic that he would impose upon her lifestyle. She considers herself to be an elegant lady after all, and some wild fool would certainly find themselves met with friction when it came to living with her. Hopefully they continue to get along. In the following days they seem to adjust well enough. They play their games and have their tea together, and even Whisker seems to be more at ease with Huxley there. It's a point of concern in some ways. Hopefully the rabbit doesn't come to be too affectionate with the clown. But for now it's happy days within the dollhouse. You find yourself watching them regularly. Today they've gathered in the attic to impose Huxley's sleeping area. I'm sorry we don't have a better place to keep a lot of these things. But I'm happy the bed is finally seeing some use. It's not too bad. The spiders have been keeping me company at night. Spiders? Well, probably just little mites. I have wondered about some of the things you keep up here, though. Don't just change the subject after mentioning spiders. Are there really spiders up here? No, I was only joking, Dahlia. Ah, better be. Horrible creatures. Now, what were you wondering about? Well, I noticed some of these things seemed out of place here. Paintings, sure, they make sense for you to have, but there are some old brass knickknacks in here that don't look like any of your other stuff. Like this big brass horse head. It's a knight. But you're right, it doesn't look familiar. There's some old clothing up here. Oh, I really haven't cleaned up here in some... Hold on, chat. So, Chad, it appears as though we've been blessed with Papa Plays' great chili, because goddamn it is... Yeah? And you also got me a drink. Wow, my father is brilliant. Really haven't cleaned up here in some time, but I didn't think there was anything but spare decor items. What sort of clothing is it? Well, I found some bow ties, like the formal kind. Not like my ribbon. And no offense to our dearest Lady Dahlia, but they really wouldn't suit you. Do they belong to Whisker? No, Whisker doesn't really have any belongings to speak of. Whisker shakes his head to confirm this. He only has a little bed in my room and a few little toys of his own. But half the time he seems to prefer playing with balled up paper more than the things I make for him. One doll's trash is a rabbit's treasure. I'm almost certain that's not how that phrase goes. In any case, he seemed like men's clothes to me. I did see some old hairbrushes and things as well. Not ones that match your sets, though. Do you think some of this was left from whoever lived in the house before you? Ah, I suppose that's possible. Seems stranger to me that the owner wouldn't move such thing before placing me here. Maybe the owner hoped for a more masculine doll. Show them exactly what they were hoping for. They've had me this long, after all. Well, the owner doesn't seem to be interested in doing much to your home regardless, so maybe they didn't bother with this. They're using your storage for their extra things. Oh, I hadn't considered that. And they get quiet at times. It doesn't mean they lack interest. They love me. And I love them too. You two should get a room then. I guess a house. Oh, hush, there's no need to be jealous, Huxley. I'm sure that they love you too. You wouldn't be living here if they didn't find something appealing about you. Must have been my sparkling personality then. Perhaps it was. Right. Well, I don't have any doubts that they were just tossing me in here for you for the sake if they in here for your sake if they really love you so much. How do you mean? Well, you have told me a few times just how lonely it is here without someone to have conversations with. And here I am. Well, I am happy you're here, but I doubt it's just for me. It's all the same to me. So long as they leave me be, I'm just fine. Oh, that's just silly, Huxley. I know you'd enjoy their attention if you got it. Doubt it. Such a sourpuss. I suppose we'll find out the next time they do decide to check in on us regardless. I'll be holding my breath until then. The conversation comes to a stop as the pair goes back to cleaning, but it leaves you with some thinking to do. It has been a little time since you initially purchased the clown, so you've had a little time to get to know more about him. More so than you could have known taking him off of the shelf. At this point, it would be a lie to say that the clown wasn't growing on you. At first, you did only bring him to the dollhouse in order to provide Dolly with some company. He's a funny little guy in his own right. even if not always to his jokes. You'll have to start thinking of some ways to make him feel more welcome in the house now that you know Dahlia will be able to get along with him. Things are fairly peaceful in the dollhouse for some time after. You check on the toys from time to time, a little more frequently than you would when it was just only Dahlia and Whisker in the house. It's more active than it has been in some time, so there's more to see going on. You decide you'll be adding some new things for them from time to time to keep up this little activity. Try that piece in the bottom right there. Whisker leans forward against the table to move one of the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. His little paw nudges it carefully down to fit within its place. Oh, okay, that's part of the red costume. That's why the color is so different. Oh, what are you two up to in here? Hey, Dahlia. Whisker was just helping me with this puzzle. I tried by myself, but you know me, butterfingers. Huxley says this as he extended one of his digitless stump arms before lowering it again. Oh yes, I see. I really enjoy puzzles too. You should have told me. I'd be happy to help. You were reading, so I don't want to bother you about it. Plus, I think Whisker likes puzzles. Rabbit perks up at this, confirming the statement. Dahlia's demeanor changes at this. Something about this is bothering her. Whisker never wanted to do puzzles with me. He never wants to sit on my lap like that either. Actually, where did you get this? I don't remember seeing this puzzle before. You haven't. I found it in the foyer today. I assume you left it out. I don't leave my things lying around. Must be new. How odd. The owner always brings new gifts to my attention. I guess it was for me then. I don't think it's much your style anyway. Dahlia moves a little closer to the table to look at the illustration on the puzzles box. It features a group of circus performers putting on a show in front of a travelly dressed audience. Their costumes are bright and colorful against the muted background. The only full character in the puzzle they've put together so far is the mustache clown and the striped tights. Yes, I suppose it would have to be for you then. Something wrong, Dahlia. You can still put it together with us. Not wrong exactly, but was this the only thing in the foyer? Yeah, I didn't see anything else out of place. Well, you two enjoy your puzzle then, I suppose. I have other things to do. What's up with her, Whisker? You think she's mad at me? I hate guessing games like this. I guess I'll just have to ask her about it later. Dahlia makes her way up to the attic and knocks on the ceiling of the house. Are you up there? I know you had to be here earlier. I thought so. That was awfully mean of you earlier, you know? Leaving Huxley a gift for nothing for me. Now that you have a new toy, you're just gonna leave me to gather dust. She's being so melodramatic, but you did somewhat expect this from her. She's never taken well to having to share attention. Though you're a little surprised she's already noticed you giving him attention over a single small gift. He didn't even thank you or give you credit for it, so it's not as though he's going to be seeking your attention out because of a puzzle. Well, since you don't plan on answering me, you should know I'm feeling very cross with you about this. Between leaving me alone in here for so long and then immediately turning your attention to your new friend, I'm feeling very replaced, so I expect you to do something to get this up to me. Fragile body and a fragile heart, the porcelain drama queen exits the attic. You might consider getting her something as well to cheer her up, but at the same time, you don't want to encourage her to indulge in such dramatic, because every time you do something with Huxley, you know she'll catch on if you make it a pattern. Now you'll just have to ignore this outburst. You leave the dollhouse alone for the rest of the day. The next morning, you decide to check on the group around breakfast time. Luckily, it looks like everyone is relaxed again as they are all spending time together. Okay, so it's a quiche? Quiche? Quiche, Huxley. Quiche. Are you paying attention? You look ready to fall asleep. I never get up this early. My head feels empty and my body feels boneless. You don't have bones, and I'm not sure if your head is empty or not, actually. Do you have glass eyes like mine? Wait, you're distracting me. I'm trying to give instructions. Sorry, Lady Dahlia. Please continue. I was going to have you dice the vegetables for the quiche, but I'd rather not have you holding the knife while you're so tired. Why don't you mix up the eggs for me instead? I'll measure out the other ingredients for you to mix in. You'll just have to make the mixer. Aye, aye, chef. Consider easier for me. I make cuts with a knife anyway. Right. Butterfingers. Did she take that seriously? The group gets to work on their complex breakfast dish. Dahlia works efficiently as she dices up their various vegetables into little cubes that will suit the size of the dish. She occasionally moves to check on Huxley's progress, but he seems to have things handled. Whisker hangs on to the clown's back, watching the mixer churning in the bowl and occasionally moving the lever switch when Huxley asks him to. As you watch, you start to notice how much Dahlia looks over the way, a small frown on her face. Whisker catches her eye at one point and looks away. She turns her gaze down to her cutting board. By the time everything is put together to go into the oven, she's on edge. She excuses herself from the kitchen, asking Huxley to set the timer for her on her way out. She heads to the foyer. Stepping into the foyer, Dahlia spots a handful of items on the box turned table that Huxley arrived in. A couple of colored balls, some silk handkerchief squares, also colorful, some oversized playing cards, nothing she'd really be interested in. But there is one particularly ornate item among the group. She approaches and picks it up. Oh, what a cute little cane. But this is nice. As she turns the wooden cane over in her hand, she observes the metal handle at the top. It's fairly textured, made to be easy to grab even without wrapping fingers all the way around it. The flat top holds a little painted disc, painstakingly etched with a decorative H. Your work is detailed, even when working with such small materials. You were very particular in making this gift. The handcrafted cane lay splintered in half on the ground. Whoa. Ah! What was that? Nothing. Didn't I tell you to wait in the kitchen? So I didn't have to. I was worried you were acting weird. That was for me. Probably. Looks like all of it is for you. Oh. Jeez, Dahlia, what's your problem? What did I even do? It's not you. I'm just upset with the owner right now. He's really angry and I just picked up the cane. I was so mad I just hit it against the box without thinking it broke. It was an accident. Bull! I broke something that was for me. Huxley, are you crying? No. I guess I didn't think it would mean so much to you. It's just a cane. It's made for me. Nobody's ever made something just for me. You have so much. Would I've got two? It was an accident. You already admitted you thought about it. That's enough. You're very upset with Dahlia for this. You can see Huxley's getting really worked up. Best to separate them for the now. Put Dahlia where you don't have to look at her for a little while. Put Dahlia away in her room and lock the door. Huxley, who was already upset by this turn of events, is terrified at seeing your hand enter the dollhouse so suddenly. There isn't much else you can do but leave him alone to calm down. Dahlia pounds on the door of her room. You can hear her voice cracking as she cries to you, threatening you, says whatever she can think of it to be absolved of any guilt. She just doesn't want to take responsibility for what she did. You said I'll leave her in there until you're feeling less upset about what happened. Whatever happens to be. For now, you decide to focus on making a new gift for Huxley. You hadn't expected him to be so sentimental over it, but knowing now that it's so meaningful to him, you are nearly motivated to make something for him that he'll enjoy. If he's willing to accept something like that from you, even with his fear of your physical presence, is a good first foot in the door to actually bonding with the clown. But what to make? Right. The cane really meant a lot to him. You originally thought of it as a convenience item to help him reach things around the house that were difficult for him without hands. But you wanted it to be personal for him as well, hence the elaborate customization. While not the most beautiful miniature you ever crafted for the house, as a first for him, it still holds some meaning. Decide to clear the remains of the old one once everyone is asleep, then you'll make it anew. Over the next couple of days, you leave the dollhouse alone to work diligently on the cane for Huxley. Imagine he would like some time without you looming over the house after what happened before. However, you know that before you can present him with his cane, you'll have to try and get things back to normal within the house. Time to check on Dahlia. You find her lying on her bed, completely despondent. She's fully dressed. You can't be sure whether that means she has been getting up every day to get ready, or just hasn't changed in her pajamas since you put her here. You lock the door with a click. She's immediately alert. You're back! I thought maybe you were going to leave me in here forever. I am sorry for acting out before. I shouldn't have destroyed something that you made. This is a surprise, but you doubt she'll learn much from this even if she's trying to make up with you now. You should consider my feelings too, though. It's not about the gift specifically. You know that, don't you? Oh boy. You aren't sure what to do in response to this. You look ready to burst in tears and you're still pretty cross with her. Doesn't negate your suspicions, she's only trying to get your sympathy so you forgive her for opting out. She looks up and around the room expectantly. When nothing happens, she slowly sinks. I see. You don't want to talk about it right now. That's fine. It's fine. I should go let Huxley and Whisker know I'm out again. Then I suppose talk to Huxley about this. I love you. Please talk to me soon. She anxiously hurries out of the room, her posture stiff and her expression full of worry. Just in case, you stick around to listen on her and Huxley. You find the conversation already in progress, but their voices are low and hard to hear. Perhaps Dahlia didn't want you to listen in. I just worry that that's the direction this is going. I don't remember it clearly, but I do have mentions in my journal. I don't think it's out of the question that replacement is what they have in mind. Well, I don't know them very well, so I can't say that, but when I got here, you tried very hard to tell me how much you trusted them on stuff. Must you think that's kind of an overreaction to a few gifts for me. This house is already full of stuff for you, so it's just common sense that the more things will be added for me to balance it out. Just don't get it. My bond with them is special, so I can tell when they're pulling away. Well, so what then? So what? Yeah, I mean, they put me in here for you, didn't they? It's not like you'd be alone even if they did decide to focus their attention on me. It's not the same. Oh, I'm not trying to say I don't like you, Huxley. I like you a lot. You're my friend. But the owner, that's something else different entirely. My friendship with you makes me happy. You don't give my life purpose. Nobody can do that for you, Dahlia. I know you think you're made just for them, but here's the thing. You have no purpose. Nobody does. Nobody can give you one. That's the awful truth. You have to get by in life by your own will, or just spin your wheels like I was when I just gave up. It's your own choice. There's no pressure to live for someone else, but there's no drive outside of your own wants. That's difficult, but it is what it is. But that can't possibly be right. And how would you know anyway? You spent your whole life just moping around hating what you are. Just because you lack any purpose doesn't mean I do too. Confide in you. You don't get it because you've never been anyone's favorite. Well, I'm Whisker's favorite. Ugh. Second time in just a few minutes, Dahlia storms out of the room. Though this time it's clear she's angrier than she is upset. At the very least, Huxley stood his ground this time. Dahlia looks like she's going to go soak over tea in the kitchen. I'm alone when you get back to work. As long as she isn't at his throat, she can be mad all she likes. Oh wow. Today you finished your cane for Huxley. Rather than draw attention to it, you left it in the foyer for him to find. I'm excited to see his reaction. Carefully picks up the cane. It's not a perfect recreation, but one you took a little bit more time with. Tiny relief carvings twirl down the cane. They aren't detailed since scale is a bit of a difficult factor for you, but they were chosen with care. Stars and simple comedy and tragedy masks are the main motif you chose. Masks feature prominently on the metal handle as well, certainly more ornate than before. But you use the same H initial medallion as before as the inlay. Carefully reconstruction of the careful original gift with a little extra love put into it to make up for the loss of the first. He holds it with his arm, standing there in quiet thought before he breaks the silence. You're probably around, right? Right, there you are. Geez, I've just realized I don't really know how to talk to you. Especially since I've been avoiding you. You had to have noticed that. Sorry about that, and thanks for this. I really didn't think you cared about me at all. It'd be pretty easy for you to just think of me as some object for your entertainment. But you surprised me. Don't think I'll be dressing up all swanky to match this thing, though. It'll be for knocking stuff off the shelves and helping me up the stairs, and that's it. Dahlia steps down the stairs, frowning as she looks at the conspicuous cane in the foyer. Huxley's initial jovially clear. She goes right up at seeing how she's looking at it. Ah, that cane. Suppose I should keep my distance then. What do you mean? It's not like you break it a second time. I told you that was an accident. You're still trying that, huh? I guess I didn't mean to imply that you wouldn't break it again out of the goodness of your heart anyway. You wouldn't break it because you got in trouble for it for the first time. Suppose you had the time of your life with me locked away in there, didn't you? Not having to deal with me encroaching on your time with Whisker or the owner. Perhaps I should worry on how you might think of it. He used to get rid of me for longer than that. You're just trying to get a rise out of me now. How so? It's the truth. Unless you think everything I do would be about you, too. I'm the only one who's been acting that way up for you after all, so I wouldn't understand your confusion. Why are you so jealous of me? Jealous? There's nothing to be jealous of. The owner is only giving you attention because you're a novelty. You're new, and they'll get bored of you. Shut up. And even if they do, whatever. Whisker's my friend. I thought you were too, but whatever. One is plenty for me. At least he cares about me. You never care about anyone but yourself. Whisker quietly enters the room, having heard the commotion of his name being used. He looks especially worried. That's not true. I care about the owner, else this wouldn't even matter to me, because they care about me too. Oh yeah? And what happened to what you said before, of their silence being fine with you? They can ignore you all they want as long as they aren't giving attention to anyone else. You're not sure at all about whether they care about you. You're worried you're just a toy to them, because you put all your worth into getting their approval. You make yourself miserable, Dahlia. So stop coming up with ways to blame me for that. Neither of us control what they do. Neither of us can know for sure how they feel. Neither of us can guarantee you more than just possessions for them, so it's pointless. If you don't want to be my friend, just leave me alone. You sit in silence for a moment. Is that really how he feels about you, even after you went out of your way to make him feel welcome? He's right about Dahlia's insecurity, but maybe he's the same. Maybe he just can't trust you. You don't like it, but it's hard to completely disregard his point of view. You aren't in the same position at all, and he knows it. Surely he realizes how long you've dealt with Dahlia and her dramatics, though. If you threw out toys every time they were difficult with you, you would never have any. Dahlia returns from the kitchen. Huxley? What? What do you want, Dahlia? You really don't understand a thing. You ruined everything, don't you get it? Dahlia? Dahlia holds the kitchen knife in her hand. I was wrong. I can admit that. Wanting friends is wrong. Should have been just us. Even Whisker doesn't need to be here. Whisker's quick to flee. He bumps into the box, knocking the lid open. He uses it for cover. You're acting nuts. If you want the cane so bad, just take it. It won't. I just won't have anything. It's better than whatever this is. I don't want this stupid cane. I just want things to be like they were. Dahlia, please. You're scaring me. You begin to reach in for Dahlia. but she lunges before you can come even close. You're doing it on purpose, going on and on about how much it doesn't matter to you, how you aren't even trying. It just comes so easy to you, doesn't it? Well, I won't. Why worry and try to actually care about what happens? You just muck until everything gets handed to you. I'm not. Please, I'll just go. I'll ask them to take me out of here. That's not good enough. I need to know that you won't come back. Dahlia. Oh no. With the knife swinging, there isn't much you can do but wait. He stopped moving early into the attack. She even tore out his spring and tossed it across the room. Not that he would have been able to use it to get away. He's barely recognizable by this puppet you chose by the time she stands up over him. His rubber head was split right up in the middle and now lay sprawled on the ground like open butterfly wings. It's like each half of his face is a mask, each displaying a different emotion held in his final moments. His lining is shredded, his stuffing tossed every which way. He's beyond salvaging, Whisker. You weren't always so bad. I'm sorry about this. You step away from the dollhouse. How do things go wrong so quickly? You need to find something to put Dahlia in. You can't leave her in there, but you don't want to pick her up while she's acting like this. Knife is the size of an exacto blade to you, but you don't doubt she would stick it right through your hand if you gave her the chance. Assuming she didn't go for a vein instead. Find a jar that would be around the right size and grab a large paintbrush to shove her into it with, then return to the dollhouse. You're met with a burning smell and the sight of smoke exiting the windows. You find Dahlia sitting in the attic. In the brief time you were away, she set the room ablaze. You smell some sort of accelerant. It makes you wonder if she put some salt into this before, or what she would do. Curious to you to attempt to scoop her into the jar. Fire is already creeping up the sides of her dress, of her hair. Huxley was right in a way. She's in a hell of her own making. Never has been so clear as now when you see her being taken by the flames. Cracks form from the heat and her clothes and hair burn away. You look away. You start to think there was never a possibility of either of you being happy in this arrangement. It's both a punishment and a mercy to let her burn. You leave to grab a pitcher of water for the fire. To scale, it's small and fairly contained, and damages to the dollhouse. Still, you move your paint thinners and repair supplies off your table and spritz down the surface of water to catch any stray embers. And you wait. You don't put out the fire until you're sure she's been reduced to nothing more than porcelain debris. You take some responsibility for the situation. After all, it was your dollhouse. You were in charge of it. Things were clearly beyond any redemption. You're not sure when you'll be up to it, but you'll just have to start over fresh. A new home, maybe new toys. Be sure your control is known to be undefiable so that this never happens again. The doll maker, the monster maker. She waits in the quiet of the house. Somewhere distantly, the sound of Whisker's muted footsteps detail his route up to the attic. She waits and she waits. Her posture holds stiffly, but the energy begins to leave her expression. I see. I don't know what I was expecting. I'll go mad in here alone, you know? You'll just keep on ignoring me, won't you? I'm doing my best. You make my life so needlessly difficult. She sighs, and after adjusting her long hair into place, she turns to leave the room. There's no need to interfere with her day too much. You already have something planned for her later, anyway. Leave the dollhouse alone for now. Ugh, I know you're there. Quit ignoring me. You're doing this on purpose. You're just trying to upset me. She's being so melodramatic. Okay. You still feel Huxley's better suited as something of a distraction for Dahlia. Flawed little thing that she is, you wouldn't have kept her this long if you didn't have some attachment to her, especially with how poorly she gets along with other toys. She's quite lucky that even though she's so much trouble, you've quite the sentimental view of her. Hopefully the clown learns his place with time and stops bringing down the mood for her. If not, you could always make some adjustments. Nothing can last forever. It's clear enough the honeymoon phase is coming to an end by the argument you find already in progress when you check on the house today. 3 times in a row, we're gonna play what I want today. You're literally offered to let me choose. You can't say you didn't care about what we play and then take it back because you don't like what I picked. I didn't know you were going to pick the worst one when I said that. The worst one? You seemed fine with it the other day. Fine, let's play this one instead. You like Parlor Detective, don't you? You're serious? I'm just more into the mood for a word game. A specific game in mind. I didn't realize which one I wanted until now. It's not as though I wanted to argue with you. Could have fooled me. You're so sour, Huxley. I'll get the game set up while you're over there sulking. I'll feel better once we start playing. Hey, Whisker, what do you make of this? Rabbit looks up from his place on the little pet bed on the floor. He seems uneasy at being addressed in the middle of their tiff. Whisker doesn't even talk, Huxley. I know you're playing some joke. Whisker, do you think Dolly already started the game without me? Still setting it up. Because I'm starting to think we're playing charades. Or ESP tester. Maybe it's just mind games. I don't think expecting you to take me. My word requires you to be psychic. The only funny thing about this is how silly you're acting over some board games. Yo, and maybe I'm not in the mood for your kind of game. So you're pitching a fit over not getting your way. That's rich. No, if you just said what you wanted from the beginning, I wouldn't care. Honestly, if you wanted to watch paint dry and you were serious about it, that'd be fine with me. I'd rather drink paint than get jerked around. Enjoy the taste of your new colors. I'm not in the mood to play anymore. Dahlia shoves the little letter tabs and game board back into the box she'd been removing them from. Even Huxley looks a bit surprised at their reaction, but primarily he looks irritated. It's odd to see him so worked up. Though he has been more lively since Dahlia helped him get back on his feet, it's rare to see him feel so strongly about anything. The general state of envy he carries himself with leaves little room for much emotional outbursts. Not beyond a sarcastic remark, anyway. So seeing him like this is a little worrisome. Once the game is put away, Dahlia moves to push him along towards the door, meeting resistance when she does. What are you doing? I'm not going to be playing anything now, so I want some time to myself. Get out of my room. How mature of you, Miss Dahlia. Really befitting a lady of your caliber. Out! Clown finally exits the room and she slams the door behind him. With him gone, she sighs and presses her back to the door. It takes her a few moments, but she gathers herself and straightens out her dress and then her hair. When she looks around and sees Whisker is no longer in the room either, she sits down her bed and takes up her diary and pen from her dresser. I swear, I can't count on anyone to just be civil. She begins to write. You decide to leave her to her personal writing. Next morning, you decide to check in on the dollhouse and make sure things have cooled off from the day before. Dahlia is waiting in the kitchen, presumably for the other toys. She seems to be lost in thought. Distant look leaves her face when Huxley enters the room. You can tell by his expression he's wary of what she might say to him. Presumably, they haven't spoken since their fight. It's probably good that you're here to watch them just in case. Good morning, Dahlia. His tone is flat, cautious perhaps. Good morning, Huxley. Dahlia's greeting is chipper, her tone sing-song as though she doesn't even recall the fight before. The clown is caught off guard for a moment by this, but regains his composure. I was just waiting to make breakfast. I assume Whisker won't be joining us, but that's alright. Leave out some leftovers for him. What will we be having today? You're leaving it to me to choose. Oh, sorry, I wasn't asking you. She must mean you, then. Dahlia and Huxley wait in silence for your answer. First, you're worried that they'll just stand there until you do something, but Huxley is finally the one to break the stillness in the kitchen by looking aside at Dahlia. Maybe they're not there. Oh, perhaps. I thought for certain they would come see us today, though. Let's wait a little bit longer. I'll just make myself some toast, if that's alright. Are you sure? I'm not sure what I'll make, but it will definitely be better than just plain toast. Dahlia says this as though to tempt him, but it's clear that her tone she's displeased with his attempt to avoid whatever decision she expects you to make about the food. He seems to catch on to this, too. Alright, I guess I'll wait. It's likely only to avoid another argument like before, but in a way you're relieved to see him settling into Dahlia's routine. How can you tell when they're here anyway? You ask so readily. Oh, I ask every day. You usually sleep in, though, Mr. Lazybones. Bones? Yeah, well, I was having trouble sleeping, so I'm up early. Oh, let's have some chamomile tea before bed tonight, then. I'm sure I'll sleep well then. Yeah. For now, I'll just brew us some coffee while we wait. You like coffee, don't you? Sure. Even if you didn't, you sound like you need it today. Just sit at the table. He does as she tells him while she goes to put the kettle on the stove. You're glad she has someone else to direct her neediness at in a way. But at the same time, it would be depressing to watch them waiting around for you to do something. They seem like they're getting along in the loosest sense of the word, so you leave them alone for now. Hopefully Dahlia gets impatient and makes him some food. Be sure even if she doesn't, Huxley will just sneak something else to eat later. He clearly isn't a fan of you, and your opinion isn't something you wait around all day for like Dahlia. Your hopes that the toys wouldn't need much more supervision to keep getting along turn out to be a little too optimistic. You find yourself regularly checking in on them when you hear arguments breaking out in the dollhouse. Despite Huxley's originally harsh demeanor toward Dahlia when she would snap at him, you find he is becoming more and more upset by these developments. You never really took him for the emotional type. You're not sure what to make of it, but Dahlia is convinced that he has only crocodile tears for her. Even if so, you find yourself worried about the state of the dollhouse if you continue to baker this way. You only brought Huxley in as a way to keep her entertained and to provide her some company that would actually talk to her. You're starting to wonder if that was the right decision. The mood in the house has become unhospitable. You sometimes find yourself considering separating the two by adding an extra wall to divide the dollhouse. That would hardly be a practical solution. Like every other day, you find yourself checking in on the dollhouse when it becomes too quiet. You see what the two inside are up to. You see Dahlia is currently having some tea in the kitchen by herself. She seems fairly content, but you did hear another fight earlier. You check on the attic for Huxley next, expecting to find him moping by himself after another rough day. But he's not there. What is he doing in there? We watch in silence. Whisker rests on the pet bed in the room, and his head turns to look at the clown as he crosses the room. Huxley brings an arm up to his own face and mimes a shushing noise, a little difficult to do without fingers, but the rabbit seems to understand. He lays his head back down, and Huxley continues across the room. He lingers at the bookshelf, bending down to examine the spine of each entry there. He checks the board games as well. Not finding what he's looking for, he heads to the dresser next. His eyes wander over the basket of flowers and the clutter of small desk items Dahlia keeps there. A little notepad with a list of chores and repairs to be made sits on top. He leafs through this, but drops it back in place once he sees how mundane its contents are. His lips tighten in discomfort. He slowly opens the first drawer of the dresser. He shuts it much more quickly than he opened it. At least you can be sure he wasn't looking for the contents of that one. He opens the next one, and this time reaches inside. Dahlia's diary. He closes the drawer and leaves the room, heading right back up the attic with his findings. Whisker gives a worried frown from his position on the pet bed. This is a bad idea. The lock on the diary is a minor obstacle. He simply uses a small knife from the kitchen to cut it as close to where it attaches the book as possible. It can just be glued back into place. Huxley opens the book and sets it out on one of the dusty boxes so that he can more easily read it and turn the pages. His touch is careful, aware of how suspicious it would be for any of the diary's pages to be ripped, though he notices right away some of the older ones are missing. You originally had taken those out for Dahlia, but now you're glad you did for an entirely different reason. Never thought about other toys snooping. Dear Diary, I can't seem to find my own journal, so we'll be starting fresh, but it's a lovely day for such fresh starts. Rose finished a painting today for the foyer. The results are beautiful. She's such a talent with paint. I wish that I could make anything half as lovely. I can at least say I provided something in return since I'm working on a new dress for her. I do hope she likes it. I've asked for some flowers to put up some arrangements around the house. Since Rose paints so many flowers, I'm sure she would like some for her still life as well. Not sure why I'm bothering with how difficult she's been lately. Seems like she disagrees with me just for the sake of it, even on the littlest thing. I'm not going to say anything to her about it, but I wish that we should stop her regardless. Honestly, I think she's jealous of me. It's the only thing I can think of. Rose used to be so sweet, but now it's like walking on glass to be around her. Or is it eggshells? Either way, she needs to stop picking fights with me. Our owner is only excited by her because she's something new enough to still be a novelty. If she thinks it means she's better than me, her wooden head is as empty as it sounds when the wind blows through the house. Crude drawing of a doll's head with wind blowing through it in one ear and out the other adorns the next page. A couple after that are removed. Dear Diary, I'm terribly lonely here. I think the owner sent Rose away due to my complaints. I haven't seen her in days, and they won't answer me as to her whereabouts. It hasn't been weeks. I'm not sure anymore. I suppose it can't have been days since I'm having difficulty remembering exactly when you last spoke, even picturing her face. I wish she had left behind some self-portraits. I miss her dearly. Huxley frowns and skips ahead past many pages of mundane daily goings-on around the empty house. They range from cheerfully recounting craft projects to desperate letters to no one expending on her loneliness. A new home with new faces. I was able to bring a few things with me, but it feels quite frightening all the same. Luckily, Lucille has been a very gracious host. She shares everything with me with an eagerness that tells me she's been as lonely as I have in these past few years. I don't enjoy sleeping in the attic. It's rather eerie up here. I feel terribly out of place. Maybe if I wish hard enough, I'd return to the home I know. Huxley eyes the old bedroom that now holds his own bed. He just assumed Dahlia had always lived here and was her home. Lucille is not what I thought she was. She's so cruel when she wants to be. Today we sat on the roof together to see the stars. She pushed me. The owner doesn't believe me. They replaced the arm that was damaged, but my face can't quite be restored. My eye. I feel so broken beyond that, though. Perhaps I'm just very unlucky, but nothing ever quite works out in my favor. If I can convince the owner of what Lucille did, perhaps they actually do something. But until then, I think I'll just be avoiding her, unless I say something that would further prevent any sort of peaceful resolution. She deserved it. They wouldn't have done that if she didn't. Puppet stares at the pages, chewing his lip and digging deep in thought. He leaves through the next quiet stage of Dahlia's life until he finds another name. After so long, the owner has gifted me new friends. Theodore and Whisker are a delightful little pair. I'd never say so to them, but I'm a little disappointed that the owner didn't seem to bring me a doll like myself. But Theodore is still a kindly gentleman, even if he is rather fuzzy. And Whisker knows so many tricks. Such an agile little thing. I'm sure we're going to get along grandly. The section seems to be missing the most pages. There are areas where even Dahlia writes about her frustration with her diary being tampered with, and how often she finds herself confused about past events the other toys discuss with her. Eventually, Huxley finds in newer pages that Theodore's name simply isn't mentioned again, not even in a memoir fashion as when Dahlia lamented the loss of her initial friend. Huxley finds the most recent entries as he seeks the point where he initially arrived. Finally, a friend. A new friend who might be as sad as me, but at least he speaks. At least it's not only me now. At least I can look at his face and recognize him. I had started to think perhaps the owner hated me. They placate with me, guess, but they never let me out anymore. I know they have other toys. I can see them from the window working on their projects. Only just barely. I don't always understand what I'm seeing, but I know that what they're working with. Unknowing things, but knowable faces. If Huxley hadn't arrived, I don't know what I would have done. I was at my wit's end, but finally things are normal again. Huxley is a curious fellow. I rather appreciate the humor he brings to the house, even if I wish Whisker wouldn't look at him quite so interestedly. Whisker annoys me when he can, but I'm happy to share my books and my time with Huxley. I don't know if he understands our situation quite the same way that I do, but he likely already knows that there won't be more toys added to this home after him. Unless one of us were to be replaced, of course, but I wouldn't let that happen. Wouldn't let either of us be replaced, wouldn't let herself be replaced. The rest of this is just about things we've done together. Though, she does kind of talk about me like she thinks I'm stupid or something. Huxley frowns and finally closes the diary. This was a waste of time. Now I have to fix the strap too. I remember seeing some glue in Dahlia's scrapbooking supplies. I'll just use that. He leaves the attic to return the book to its original hiding place in the bedroom. Dahlia is always there. Why are you acting like that, Whisker, you funny little bunny? You never tried to play with my things before. Now give me my hairbrush back. Come. Huh? New sleeves. Oh, hey, Dahlia. Hello, Huxley. Did you need something? No, it was really quiet up in the attic. Oh, isn't it always so? She smiles, amused by what sounds to her like a very silly excuse to come find her. I was just brushing my hair until Whisker stole my hairbrush, silly little thing. Whisker tinses as Dahlia reaches for him. He squeaks as she picks him up by the scruff. Dahlia, be careful. That looks really, uncomfortable for him. Oh, he's just being dramatic. He always is when I pick him up. She tugs on the brush and Whisker's paws. Huxley finds it. He catches on to why the rabbit is acting so strange. He tries to inch closer to the dresser while Dahlia is occupied with Whisker. The book slides right off his grip and onto the floor when he tries to lean over toward the dresser. Dahlia drops Whisker. Diary lies on the floor, looks stunned. For a moment. What are you doing? Dahlia, that's my private writing. What's wrong with you? Coming to my room and stealing things. You horrible creature. I had a reason, okay? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. What reason could you possibly have for riffling through my drawers and violating my privacy? I share everything with you, Huxley. I should at least have my own thoughts to myself. I wanted to know what was going on in your head. You've been getting really mean with me lately. So I thought I'd just see what I was doing wrong. If it was me or you, if I was doing something that was upsetting you, I'd just talk to you about it. You're accusing me of being mean when you've stolen from me. Just how have I mistreated you, Huxley? This is my home and I'm sharing it with you. I make you food and I play games with you. I even fixed you. I wasn't broken, you know. That's part of it. You do things for me, but then you act like I owe you. Like you're counting how many favors you give me to turn in later. Plus you get so angry about everything if it doesn't go your way. I don't want to feel like I have to watch every little thing I say or you'll get upset. You have an awful attitude, Huxley. What am I supposed to say? Being upset by your rude behavior isn't unreasonable. Disagreeing with you isn't rude. So was stealing not rude either. I already apologized. And if the things I do for you make you feel so awful, then I don't think I should do anything for you anymore. You ingrat. You're being ridiculous about this. Coming from a clown. Maybe you're right. Maybe you weren't broken before like I thought. Maybe you're just made wrong in the first place. Dahlia cups her hands around her mouth and looks up at the ceiling. You can take your spring back. We don't want it anymore. Dahlia, get rid of it. Get rid out of my house. Stop it. Huxley shoved Dahlia backwards, causing her to stumble. She trips over Whisker, who scurries to try and get out of the way. There's a quiet crack when she hits the ground. Huxley stares at her with her eyes wide. I didn't mean... Decide you've seen enough of this. Wait! You scoop the clown out of the dollhouse as Dahlia picks herself back up. You see her limp as she steps forward. Likely some minor leg damage. You'll have to fix that. As for Huxley, clearly giving him equal footing with Dahlia in the home was a mistake. You carefully tear out the sections of fabric that keep the string in place with the puppet's body. Once it's done, you set the metal piece aside. It's what she asked for, after all, and in this case you're inclined to agree with her. Gently place Huxley back into the dollhouse. His breathing is heavy and his body trembles as he lies on the floor, unwilling to get back up just yet. He's so sensitive about any sort of contact with you. Pitiful, really. Dahlia brushes off her dress and frowns down at him on the ground. He looks back at her with glossy eyes. Dahlia betrays the level of hurt he's feeling, even beyond the physical change. This is clearly an incredible deep betrayal in his eyes. What, you got by without it before. Since you think my input doesn't matter anymore, there's no reason to keep using the thing I decided to give you, right? You'll figure something out all by yourself. Unless you decided to take back what you said. Plead with me for forgiveness. Huxley's impression darkens and he goes quiet. Silence hangs quickly in the air, still lifting the mood in the room. Whisker looks uneasy despite the look being directed at him. He's quick to leave the room. Well? Dahlia, if you really think you're right about this, your face isn't the only thing that's correct. Doll's eyes widen and she shoots the clown an incredulous, infuriated look. Is that so? Guess I'll be taking the attic back as well. You came with the room anyway, didn't you? Sleep in that box. How about you give me your bed instead, since you'll have to sleep in mine if you want to keep me out of it? So ridiculous. So we were friends, but your jealousy clearly is too much for you to overcome. It's such a pity. Why couldn't you just play nicely, Huxley? I was playing nice. That was my mistake. Just watch yourself if you're thinking about getting me with me, Harley Quinn. You know our other friend would be quick to punish you if you raised your hand to me. Huxley's eyes search the room, passing over the ceiling and the windows. He knows you're watching, which he should. You don't want him getting ideas, considering you already had to confiscate the spring. And just like that, he seems to lose all energy. You're right. It's pointless. So why don't you just go crawl in your box? Huxley says nothing as he leaves the room, having to pull himself along on the floor. He reaches the stairs. Whisker at least helps him along once he's sure Dahlia can't see. Dahlia, on the hand, is looking pleased with herself, quite despite the edge of sourness still affecting her mood. Honestly, can you believe the nerve of him? I do so much for him, he decides to treat me like this is my own home. Clearly he forgot whose house this is. I shouldn't have expected much sense from a clown anyway. Thank you for looking out for me. I know you would. We've been through so much together. I love you, my dear. When you check on Huxley, he really has returned to his box, curled up inside, much like when you first put him in the house. You imagine that he'll get over his mood with enough time. Hopefully he comes back out with a new attitude as well. You expected a little better when you chose him, honestly. In any case, you're glad that little problem has been taken care of. Later in the evening, a surprisingly loud sound draws your attention back to the dollhouse. Check the foyer first. The large mirror near the attic door remains intact. Huxley doesn't seem to be in the box anymore. He must have snuck back up to the attic to sleep. He doesn't seem to be present here either. It appears the picture frame in this room also wasn't a source of the noise, as it's still in one piece. You already saw into the kitchen from the entry when it was completely dark, so that leaves. Decide to check Dolly's room. Though it's unlikely, she does have decorative window it would possibly break, as well as various glass knickknacks. Looks like she's awake as well. You see a dark shape on her bed. Close to the bed, you realize there's something lying on the floor. Brass night piece. You're putting off the inevitable. You finally move the curtains on Dahlia's bed to look on her. You're here already. Kind of expected to see you in the morning. Whoopsie. I guess this is a little awkward for you, isn't it? You look at Dahlia's remains in the bed. One of her glass eyes rests on the comforter. You painstakingly replicated her original one after she was first damaged. Now there isn't even a face to house it. She's only porcelain, but somehow the sight of her head completely disfigured like this still feels horribly cruel. You're possibly still looking at her, right? You spoiled her, you know? It's pretty awful of you to put me in this position, but maybe worse for her. I can't imagine someone gets to be in her position without being enabled in some ways. Oh, maybe that's why she couldn't get along with anyone before me. But hey, you have a new favorite now, right? Even if you hate me, I'm the only one now. Or do you only like pretty little dolls? Oh. I didn't do anything to Whisker. I haven't seen him since I got the chess piece from the attic. What do you care anyway? If you liked him, you wouldn't have let Dahlia treat him like a pet. Doesn't matter now. I hope he got out. You're probably gonna break me now anyway, right? Better he doesn't have to see that, or see her. You gently lift Huxley out of the dollhouse. It is well and truly tempting to pick the puppet up and pop his little sculpted head right off his shoulders. But what would be the point of that? You'd have nothing left, just an empty dollhouse. I'm not sure how you managed to lose control of the situation so quickly. You're only away for a little while. You shouldn't have to watch the house for every second of every day and night to avoid these kind of disasters. You could never stop it when it happened with Dahlia. Of course you couldn't stop it when it happened to her either. And again, maybe it is on you for not maintaining a better balance in the household. Can't be sure. Leave the dollhouse alone for now. You may come back to check on Huxley and start the art to his task of attempting to build a connection with him. It should be impossible, even if he is the difficult type. Dahlia was the difficult type too. It took a lot of work to get her to do as you wanted. It involved a lot of compromising. Maybe too much compromising. If you ever hope to introduce new toys to the dollhouse again, you have to hope you learn from your mistakes with her. clown caught you off guard this time, but you'll soon be in control once more. Ending 1B, your new favorite. I'm sure it's what he wants anyway. You easily take the puppet out of the dollhouse and tear him in half in your hands. His fabric body shreds with minimal effort. What a waste. Dolly is beyond repair. Huxley was a disaster. The rabbit has completely vanished. You have to start over from scratch. You don't even know if you have it in you at this point. Perhaps you'll avoid choosing such big egos in your next project. It only causes trouble when they crave to be in control knowing you're the only one with any control here. Well, say for instances like tonight. Even humans can't control everything. And 1A, you spoil her. Ending 1A, you spoil her. Definitely ruined. Huxley and Whisker are beyond saving. Horrible as she's been, she's the only thing left. You reach into the dollhouse with your tools and scoop the burning doll into the jar. It's lucky for her that you chose a glass container. You wouldn't have even had the option. You hurry her into the bathroom, the lid held over the jar to try to keep the smoke from escaping. Not quite enough to smother the fire. You finally bring her to the sink and turn on the faucet, drenching her and filling the container with water. By the time you're done all of this, her cotton clothing has been ruined. Her wool-wefted hair has easily burned away. Her paper flowers are only ashes in the water. She's naked and charred and unrecognizable. But she's alive. Try as she might to convince you otherwise by sinking motionlessly to the bottom of the jar. You'll have to remake her. The damage is extensive. But she's a monster of your making. You'll breathe new life into her, and hopefully this time you'll get it right. Ending 2A, The Princess Ashipote. Okay, those were all the endings of that. So I'm gonna end this here, chat, and reminder, stay tuned for tomorrow's special Halloween stream, where we will be playing a very, very special game. See you guys later.